Jason Tatum, another guy where since he's been drafted, there's been all these expectations for him. He was drafted into Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Kyrie came soon after. They had Gordon Hayward. So you see the players around him that he's been able to play with just in his short, brief NBA career. I believe this is season 7 for him. All these people hating on him. He's been to 6 conference finals. He's made it to a finals against one of the greatest players of all time with Steph Curry. And I feel like every year they've shown up, they've had deep playoff runs, but for some reason, NBA media is so harsh to Jason Tatum. Whether it's talking about his fourth quarter antics in game 1 where he didn't score, or mentioning all these moments of his lapse here. What is it with the media and Jason Tatum, and why do they hate on him so much?
Yeah, I think you could look at it two ways. So the media, you could say that they're hating on Jason Tatum, or you could take it as a compliment for what the media expects of Jason Tatum, because he's been to the conference championship 5 out of his first 7 years, but hasn't been able to quite get it done in the NBA finals. So the media does have the expectation of him that, hey, we're not really going to give you the full credit you deserve until you go out there and win the NBA finals. The problem is when you start anointing guys ahead of him, like Anthony Edwards, who has not shown up in the conference finals here. Jason Tatum's, when he was 19, was dunking on LeBron when LeBron was at the peak of his powers in Cleveland in a conference championship in that game when Isaiah Thomas or Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward were both hurt in that series, and they were able to get to the conference finals. And he has beat Joel Embiid every single time that they met in the playoffs. He has gone toe to toe with Giannis Antetokounmpo every time they made the playoffs. And my biggest problem is this whole narrative that he's not clutch, when that's just not the case, and that's not NBA what has happened over the course of the few years. Does he have games where he doesn't show up in the fourth quarter and that he gets cold? He does. But when the Celtics backs have been up against the wall versus Giannis and versus Embiid, who people crown constantly as better than Jason Tatum, what has he done? He's shown up and dropped 46 points and 51 points in a game 6. The narrative that he doesn't show up when his team needs him is just not true.
Yeah, no, you nailed it there. Do you think that winning that title is going to finally get that monkey off his back with the media, or maybe they'll be a little bit less harsh to him, or do you think that it's only going to continue to get worse as they have higher expectations?
Yeah, I think if he wins the title, it'll be fine, and it'll definitely put him in that upper echelon. I think the problem the media has with Jason Tatum is he's not the most marketable player in the world, and it's not necessarily his fault, but he's not someone like Anthony Edwards that's going out there and talking trash to players. He's not having these incredible post-game comments that people can really gravitate to. He kind of just goes out there and puts in work, and that's kind of his personality. Doesn't really stir up any controversy that the media can gravitate to. So they're always kind of like, he's just the best player on a championship team that's contending to a finals, and they're not really going to give him any credit until he wins an NBA championship. But my problem is when someone like Chris Broussard goes on the herd and says, yeah, Ja Morant was that, saying that Jason Tatum basically said he was in a second tier of NBA superstars, and Ja Morant at one point was being elevated above him. Anthony Edwards is being elevated above him when they haven't accomplished the same as him, haven't been to an NBA finals. Some of these players haven't even been past the second round.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think for somebody his first 7 years, we saw how, LeBron didn't win until he was 28. Michael Jordan didn't win until he was 27. Really, the only superstar that I can think of that had that early run is someone like Kobe, who was paired with Shaq, and you saw them win 3 straight titles when he was just 23 and 24 years old, respectively. It's not common for these superstars to immediately have success. And I think what he's been able to accomplish to this point, as he just turned 25, literally in March, is pretty respectable. I mean, if he can go on and still win these titles that we're anointing him to have, I would say he's had a pretty successful run to this point. I think that the hatred is a little ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think he is going to win the NBA Finals this year. And the thing that people don't understand with Jason Tatum is they just look at the scoring, but they don't look at the overall impact that he has on the game. Versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, he's only player outside of LeBron James to lead his team in points, blocks, assists, rebounds, and steals. The only player outside of LeBron James. And then when Jason Tatum wants to lock down on defense, he can. The where he thrives is being an all-around player where he's scoring on offense, he's impacting the game on defense, and he doesn't really get his credit as being an all-around defensive player as well, where if he puts his mind to it, he can go out there and lock down a player. I mean, just look at the series last year versus Philadelphia in games 4 and 5 and 6. He turned into an absolute monster on the defensive end. He was bodying up Joel Embiid at some points. And then at the end of the game versus the Pacers, when Tyrese Halliburton had the ball, Jason Tatum ends up turning Halliburton over, and he took the assignment and ended up locking him down. But Jason Tatum, he's not just a scorer, he's a great all-around defensive player as well.